outside my window.
Hello, and welcome to The Bard's Truth with your host, the Green Bard. This is Lemongate 5. Haldon Halfmaester is Maester Walys, the Grey Rat. Thus far in this series, we've covered how George R.R. Martin may have swapped Braavos Inn for the real location of the House with the Red Door, Tyrosh. We've also theorized that Illyrio Mopatis sabotaged Dany and Viserys' life there to gain the upper hand over Dorne in their political maneuvers to seize power in Westeros. Then we introduced a third conspiracy around protecting the Targaryen children, born of 4 loyal men in the shadow of the Tower of Joy, via Starfall. Finally, last time we discussed how there may have been more than one man who is remembered by Dany as Sir Willem Darry, the second one possibly being Lord Willem Dustin. In prior episodes, I've mentioned 2 other characters that I think to be participants in this conspiracy, one willing participant and one potential saboteur, who was commanded to go to the House with the Red Door. Both of these characters later show up on the Shy Maid, tied in with the Aegon plot. They are Ashara Dane, who I am sure is now living as Septa Lemore, as faith advisor to Aegon. She, of course, would be the willing participant in this conspiracy. Her story will garner its own episode, or perhaps 2. She is such an intriguing character, but with very little direct page time in our saga. Haldon Halfmaester, on the other hand, is the reluctant member of the conspiracy. I posit that Halden is Maester Walys, a bastard son of Archmaester Walgrave and a Hightower mother. Walys is the former Winterfell Maester whom Barbrey Dustin accuses of masterminding the Southron ambitions of Rickard Stark. Their presence in both conspiracies begs the question of how one who was involved in the protection of Dany and Viserys would end up supporting Aegon instead. My short answer is the deceit of Illyrio Mopatis. The longer answer will take us into a future episode, but we'll start to answer it by focusing on Halden for the rest of this episode. We are first giving clues to Halden's true identity in the prologue of A Feast for Crows. Inside, Pate had found a bag of silver stags, a lock of yellow hair tied up in a ribbon, painted miniature of a woman who resembled Walgrave even to her mustache, and a knight's gauntlet made of lobstered steel. The gauntlet had belonged to a prince, Walgrave claimed, though he could no longer seem to recall which one. Those trinkets that Pate finds while stealing Archmaester Walgrave's key are presented to us as clues in a Sherlock Holmes mystery. However, since this is a George R.R. Martin novel, the important clues are hidden amongst the potential red herrings and the mundane. I would say that the figurine is mundane, probably Walgrave's mother, as is the silver. The knight's gauntlet is intriguing, but we don't have much to go on. I would say that possibly it is Rhaegar Targaryen's as a sort of trophy for the Maester conspiracy taking down the Targaryens. Please let me know in the comments if you have other ideas about this gauntlet. As to the lock of hair, that has a neon beacon on it proclaiming, "This is important. Whose hair is it?" Well, we get a payoff in A Dance with Dragons when Barbrey Dustin discusses Maester Walys during a diatribe about what our fandom has dubbed the Maester conspiracy. Given how illuminating her words are, I'll present it here nearly in whole. They heal, yes. I never said they were not subtle. They tend to us when we are sick and injured, or distraught over the illness of a parent or child. Whenever we are weakest and most vulnerable, there they are. Sometimes they heal us, and we are duly grateful. When they fail, they console us in our grief, and we are grateful for that as well. Out of gratitude, we give them a place beneath our roof and make them privy to all our shames and secrets, part of every council. And before too long, the ruler has become the ruled. That was how it was with Lord Rickard Stark. Maester Walys was his Grey Rat's name. And isn't it clever how the Maesters go by only one name, even those who had 2 when they first arrived at the Citadel? That way we cannot know who truly they are, or where they come from. But if you are dogged enough, you can still find out. Before he forged his chain, Maester Walys had been known as Walys Flowers. Flowers, hill, rivers, snow. We give such names to baseborn children to mark them for what they are, but they are always quick to shed them. Walys Flowers had a Hightower girl for a mother and an Archmaester of the Citadel for a father. The Grey Rats are not as chaste as they would have us believe. Old Town Maesters are the worst of all. Once he forged his chain, his secret father and his friends wasted no time dispatching him to Winterfell to fill Lord Rickard's ears with poisoned words as sweet as honey. The Tully marriage was his notion, never doubt it. He... And then she's cut off. It was abundantly clear to me who Maester Walys is on my first read of A Dance with Dragons, Haldon Halfmaester. We know, of course, that Maester Walys is no longer Maester at Winterfell, having been replaced by Luwin. One would assume he died, but that's never stated. If he lived, though, Halden is the obvious choice for Walys's identity. His name is a pretty easy third clue which completes the puzzle. When Halden is introduced as Halfmaester, the natural supposition is to assume he was an acolyte who only partially completed his maester's chain. I'm sure most fans do make that assumption. However, what if the moniker is not referring to his status as maester at all? Walys was born to an archmaester father and a Hightower mother, meaning he is half Hightower and half maester bastard, making him half a maester by blood. That is the most obvious conclusion. So who is his mother? Well, none other than Melora Hightower, the Mad Maid, mentioned in Sam's POV. To be sure, Lord Leighton's locked atop his tower with the Mad Maid, consulting books of spells. With that settled, let's return to the Maester conspiracy and the best piece of evidence we have to confirm Barbrey Dustin's suspicions about her grey rats. None other than Archmaester Marwyn in that same Samwell chapter. If I tell you, they may need to kill you too. Marwyn smiled a ghastly smile, the juice of the sour leaf running red between his teeth. Who do you think killed all the dragons the last time around? Gallant dragon slayers armed with swords? He spat. The world the Citadel is building has no place in it for sorcery or prophecy or glass candles, much less for dragons. Ask yourself why Aemon Targaryen was allowed to waste his life upon the wall. When by rights he should have been raised to Archmaester. His blood was why. He could not be trusted, no more than I can. Marwyn calls them grey sheep instead of grey rats, but the characterization of their aims is the same. They have a mission to remove magic from the world and are not above murder to accomplish it. He also blames them for the entire Dance of the Dragons, which, of course, is depicted in HBO's House of the Dragon. Marwyn's accusations that the Citadel was the driving force behind the Dance of the Dragons is wild, and I buy this theory 100%. Dustin's assertion also fuels the Southern Ambitions theory that the Maester conspiracy undermined the Targaryens by connecting the core houses which drove Robert's rebellion. The endgame of that is clear, the annihilation of House Targaryen. And it would have been accomplished if not for our Tower of Joy conspiracy. Marwyn calling them grey sheep suggests that there are some shepherds in the ranks of the Archmaesters who drove this conspiracy. I would suggest that Walgrave was such a shepherd during Robert's rebellion, meaning Walys was one of the sheep. Interestingly, in Pate's A Feast for Crows prologue, Walgrave is also linked to Maester Crescent, the Storm's End Maester, who is our POV in the A Clash of Kings prologue. That solidifies the Southern Ambitions theory, with one more Maester who would have been a sheep to Walgrave enacting this conspiracy. Of course, add Grand Maester Parcell, who was a Tywin Lannister lackey and told the king to let Tywin in the doors. So that's 3 Maesters who played big parts in this. Some fans also add the Faith of the Seven, which used to be centered around Old Town, and House Hightower into the conspiracy, dubbing it the Old Town Conspiracy. I think that, while there may not be a formal conspiracy, their interests align in wanting power for themselves.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interests converge. These people went to the
This Old Town Conspiracy was given some screen time on House of the Dragon in Season 1, especially where the Maesters who are ministering to King Viserys seem to be reporting to and or taking direction from Ser Otto Hightower, not the king. But that plotline seems mostly to have been abandoned in later episodes and seasons. We'll see if the next season comes back to it. So we know that Walys ends up with the Aegon conspiracy, and now I am asserting that he was part of Ned's and the Kingsguard's conspiracy to protect Dany and Viserys. You might be thinking, Greenbard, you aren't making any sense. You already said in episode 2 that Illyrio's Aegon conspiracy sabotaged Dany and Viserys' stay at the house with the red door, which is evidently where Ned and the Kingsguard placed them. How did Ashara and Halden move from one conspiracy to the other? This is way too complicated. Your analysis is going from fun tinfoil into the realm of crazy. Let me explain and talk your finger away from the back button. Walys and Ashara's combined presence on the Shy Maid and in Essos are actually the first thing that convinced me of Ned's involvement in a conspiracy to protect Dany and Viserys. We know that Ned did talk to Ashara in Starfall immediately after the Tower of Joy, where they had an opportunity to plot with each other. Halden's presence is even more convincing, though. Old Town conspiracies aside, Maesters serve. They do what their lord tells them to do. They go where their lord tells them to go. Let me repeat that. Maesters go where their lord sends them. So, the only explanation for Walys to be in Essos is that Ned, the Lord of Winterfell, sent him there. That's plain and unimpeachable. Now, we know that Ned hates Varys. The counselor that Ned liked least, the eunuch Varys, accosted him the moment he entered. That was, of course, at his first small council meeting. There is no way that Ned entered into a conspiracy with Varys and sent Walys there to serve their Aegon conspiracy. At the same time, we know that Luwin became the Maester at Winterfell closely after Robert's rebellion, because he delivered all of Catelyn's children with Ned. Consequently, Walys must have left Winterfell around that same time. Now, if Ned did not send Walys to support Aegon, remember, Ned believes that Aegon is dead, because he truly is dead, in my opinion, then Ned sent Walys to Essos for some other reason. The only possible reason I can come up with is to continue the education of Dany and Viserys at the House with the Red Door. In his Page of Lies series, Preston Jacobs also does a thorough job of proving that they indeed got such an education, although he doesn't name the Maester. I can. It's Walys. Like I said before, we'll tackle how he ended up on the Shy Maid in a future episode. Summing up Maester Walys, he stems from two legs of the three-legged stool of the Old Town conspiracy. The question is, what side is he on now? Will he try to support Aegon, Dany, or neither as we move forward? Is he a true believer in the aims of the Maester conspiracy, or does he repent his role in it? Will he sabotage both conspiracies and try to bring about the death of dragons again? I suppose we'll find that out if we get any more books. My opinion is that he's a saboteur. My evidence is twofold. He's already sabotaged both plots. He sabotaged Dany and Viserys at the House with the Red Door with the death of Sir Willem Darry. And he sabotaged Aegon during his Syvas match and in Selhorys following that by being the main reason Tyrion was separated from their party, ensuring that Tyrion can't undo the damage he'd done with the advice to young Griff. What do you think? I'll cover my evidence and thoughts on his acts of sabotage in a future video. In the meantime, please ponder one more thing for me. Who was the fisherman's daughter? With that, I'll leave you. Peace. Thanks to all the terrific artists whose work is featured on this video. Thanks especially to all of my family who helped in this series so far.
Outside my window, here's a tree.
If you enjoyed this content, you can also consider supporting us on Patreon.